What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kevo Bands Hoops podcast, man. Back at it again today, Friday, November 25th. It's been a minute since I've last spoken with you guys, but we are back. The college hoop season is officially underway. It's been underway for about a month, I think, now. We're currently in feast week. Of course, Thanksgiving was yesterday. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you that celebrate. For the rest of y'all, I'm sending nothing but love. And to everybody, hope you guys just end this year off on a high note. Continue to strive. Continue to be great. Continue to work. And I promise everything is going to pay off for you guys in the long run. I want to say happy belated birthday to my little brother David and my grandmother Mary Lucas. I appreciate and love both you guys, man. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So college basketball so far has been, in my opinion, amazing. Like, the season started off a little bit where it was a lot of bad shooting around the country by a lot of really good teams. But I think guys and girls and ladies and gentlemen have slowly but surely started to settle in. And now you're seeing high level play all over the place. So I want to talk about two of the teams that I talked to you guys a lot about this past summer. And that is the Creighton Blue Jays out of Omaha, Nebraska, and the Arkansas Razorbacks out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. In both those teams, I was high on for two very different reasons. For Creighton, it was the fact that they returned a plethora of talent between the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East and Ryan Kalkbrenner, multiple NBA guys in Trey Alexander from Oklahoma City and Arthur Kaluma, a big-time legit point guard, even though he's not necessarily big in height or stature. Ryan Nemhard. I almost said Andrew Nemhard, but Ryan Nemhard is the goods. And honestly, I gotta be honest, I owe a huge apology to Baylor Shireman, man. That dude is much, much better than I even expected. And I knew he had all the accolades, he had all the awards. He was the player of the year in the conference a season ago at South Dakota State. But what he's brought to this Creighton team has unlocked them from being a good team to an elite team, because his range is past and exceeds NBA range. He has deep range, and Greg McDermott does not mind him doing that and shooting those shots whatsoever. And when he gets into the lane, he is super crafty and smart. He's never in a rush. He knows how to play off 2 feet. He's good at pivoting and not traveling. And he just knows how to sink the defense and get his shooters open. And so he brings an added element to this team that honestly is just nothing but a blessing. And so you look at other guys, to me, Trey Alexander is their best player. I think his game translates best to the NBA. I know a lot of people will argue that and counter that by saying it's probably Arthur Kaluma, because he has that isolation game in his game and he can get to his spots in that mid-range shot whenever he wants to. But as good as he is, I look at Trey Alexander, man. Trey Alexander is a complete basketball player. He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's out of Oklahoma City. If you guys don't know, Oklahoma produces 1 to 2 elite talents per year. You go back to Blake Griffin, you look at Trae Young, you got Bryce Thompson at Oklahoma State right now. Trey Alexander is next up in that Oklahoma lineage. And this guy, man, again, can score from anywhere. He loves that mid-range shot, knows how to get to his spots. McDermott has gone on the record in saying he's one of the best defensive players he's had in his tenure at Creighton. He does all the little things. As a shooting guard, he can make the right reads, getting into the lane and making life easier for his teammates. Me personally, I love everything that Trey Alexander brings to the floor. And it's crazy because I remember a few summers ago, I believe he would have been a sophomore. His sophomore summer going into his junior year, he was playing with Team Griffin, of course, Blake Griffin's AAU team based out of Oklahoma, and they were stacked. I remember they were at a Made Hoops event playing against Bronny James and Strive for Greatness, and at the time, it was Trey Alexander, it was KJ Adams, who's at Kansas right now and just won a national championship. It was Damian Collins, of course, we're still praying for him as he lost his father, but Damian Collins at Kentucky was on that team, Bajani Cortez, who's now at Oklahoma, and I think even Ryland Griffin at Alabama was on that team right now too. So they were stacked, and even back then, Trey Alexander caught my eye. And at that time, I had no idea who he was. I wasn't going out of my way to watch him play, but he stood out to me on that court. He's done that for Creighton. In that game that they had against a really good Arizona team, in that Maui Invitational Championship game, Arizona just played a little bit faster. Defensively, they were a little bit more locked in, and they executed their game plan better. But I came out of that Maui Invitational tournament even more high on this Creighton team because of everything that they have. And defensively, man, they have it. Both these teams we're going to talk about, Creighton and Arkansas, they clamp down. They're on a string. They play together. They play for one another. They believe in what their coach is giving them, and they communicate at a high level. When you look at what Creighton has, and Arkansas will get into in a second, like, to me right now, they're clearly the best team in the Big East, in my opinion. UConn has looked sensational, and I think I owe Danny Hurley an apology because this UConn team actually looks like a classic throwback UConn team for the first time in a very long time. But after that, like, Villanova struggling. They lost to Portland today. Isn't a bad loss, but I think they're on like a 3-game losing streak. So really, Creighton to me is the best team in the Big East. And again, fans in Storrs, Connecticut could argue that, but they just have everything that it takes to win a national championship. The only concern I have about them is they need some type of production off the bench. And they need it from guys like Sharif Mitchell, who of course is the backup point guard, was injured last year, but he's had and played in a ton of games. He has the experience. He knows what it takes to win. Francisco Farabello, who they brought over from TCU as a transfer, another guy that's played in some big-time college basketball atmospheres, and if they can get him going off that bench, it'll be huge. And then, of course, Mason Miller, redshirted last year, 6'8" sniper. Of course, his dad is the legendary Mike Miller from my Miami Heat, so he has those NBA genes. If those three guys can just step up and make a difference, and, of course, Frederick King, who backs up Ryan Kalkbrenner, 6'10" freshman, he's going to be good too. Like, Creighton, they have the pieces. This, to me, is Greg McDermott's most talented team that he might ever have at Creighton. They've had some teams. I like the Mitch Ballack and Tyshawn Alexander teams. They had the Mahoney teams. They had a couple other guys, Marcus Zagorowski. But, like, this team, to me, from a talent perspective, is the most talented team that Greg McDermott has had in his Creighton Blue Jay tenure. And, of course, watch out for them. The Jays are going to be a problem. They put on a show. They beat some good teams at the Maui Invitational. They beat Texas Tech in their first game, and then they beat a really good Arkansas team who we're going to transfer over to in a second. And, of course, they lost in a close one to Arizona. But to me, Creighton is honestly even better than I thought they would be originally. So let's go to Arkansas. Like, if you listen to my podcast, you guys know how much of a fan I am of Eric Musselman. Eric Musselman, to me, is one of the best coaches. He's a top 5 coach in the game of college basketball to me personally. I look at other guys like Bill Self is in there. Excuse me, not Bryce Drew, but why am I blank on his name? The coach from Baylor, Scott Drew, excuse me. And of course, Kelvin Sampson at Houston. Like, it is some good coaches in the country. And to me, Eric Musselman is right there amongst the best. Like, what he's done at Arkansas is nothing short of amazing. And I think he's only been there for 4, maybe 5 years now. And he's already coming off of back-to-back Elite Eights. Think about that. They've been to the Elite Eight the past 2 years. In 2021, they lost to the eventual national champion Baylor Bears. Last year, they lost to a Duke team that went to the Final Four. Like, they're getting there. They're going to get over the hump eventually. But with this team, man, just like I said with Creighton, this is probably going to be the most talented team Eric Musselman is going to have while he is the head coach of the Razorback program, the basketball program, the men's basketball program, that is, because Anthony Black, man, I'll be honest, I did not do my homework when it comes to Anthony Black. I heard a lot about this dude, but he didn't play on the EYBL, didn't play on 3SSB for Adidas, didn't play on the Under Armour Association or Under Armour Next Under Armour circuit. Like, this is a dude who played for, shout out to Garrick Norman, played for 3 Empire, which is a big AAU program in Dallas, but they don't really get a lot of love. Like, they're on YouTube, of course, but you don't really get a chance to watch them play in their live games. And they play in some good tournaments too, but I just hadn't seen him play. I know he played for Duncanville. They won a state championship. Of course, Texas kind of stripped it away from them because of Anthony Black, but he played with Ron Howland, who, of course, is going to go to Texas next year and play for Chris Beard. But that dude, Anthony Black, man, to me, is a certified lottery pick. I think he was averaging like 22 points per game and arguably could have won, player of the tournament. Like, I think he might have, honestly. I think they probably gave it to Bellis. If they did, fact check me and correct me on that. But regardless, man, this dude is a 6'7" point guard. I'm going to be honest, and I hate to admit this being from Southern California, Anthony Black is what people expected Lonzo Ball to be before he got that knee injury. Because Lonzo, sadly, right now is not playing too much because he's been dealing with a lingering knee issue, and I think it's going to be something that's probably going to harm and affect him for the rest of his career, sadly. But AB, man, at 6'7", you can throw lobs to him. He's a hell of a playmaker. He knows how to create and get into the lane and just create problems. He gets to the free throw line consistently, and he can get to the paint consistently. Those are great traits that translate well to the NBA level. And like, man, his jumper isn't even amazing, but he hits timely shots. And you look at the rest of his roster. Ricky Council IV, a Wichita State transfer, is way better than I expected him to be. He's averaging a lot of points right now. He gets to put up a lot of shots, large part because Nick Smith, of course, isn't in the lineup in rotation right now, but he's a bucket getter, super athletic. Jordan Walsh, everything that I expected from him, he's been doing. Not the greatest offensive threat right now, and if I were him, I'd probably come back to school for a year or two just to develop my offensive game and potentially turn into a lottery pick. But defensively, he can guard NBA level players right now, and he would not have any problem whatsoever. He's so lanky, so athletic. His vertical is through the roof. Like, I think he probably has the most bounce on that team. And that's saying something because this team has a lot of guys that can jump out the gym and just leap and touch the top of the backboard. But Jordan Walsh is a really good defensive player. Trayvon Brazile, another guy, did not get a lot of love coming out of high school because he really was kind of under the radar. He's originally from Missouri. He went and played for Cuonzo Martin last year, and then he put his name into the transfer portal because, of course, Missouri had the coaching change going from Cuonzo Martin to now Dennis Gates. And I think Trayvon Brazile is the ultimate testament of picking the right school because a lot of people had concerns about the transfer portal and dudes not picking the right school, but he went to the right school. Muss knows how to maximize his players, and he can be that small ball five, another guy that's super athletic. His jumper is a lot better than I expected. Like, he's raw, but you can see that he's slowly but surely putting it together. And once he does, which I think he has a long way still of getting there, like his potential is crazy, Trayvon Brazile is going to be a problem. And this team, man, you got Jalen Graham, you got the Mitchell twins. Again, we haven't even talked about Nick Smith, who's going to be healthy soon. I don't even know the exact injury, but I've heard from a lot of people that he's going to be back soon, and they're just kind of resting him for, precautionary reasons to make sure that he's good, because he has more important things to look forward to, like the NBA, of course. No offense to Arkansas. But what I'm saying is that the reason that I'm even higher on this team like Creighton is because their defense is so much more advanced than I expected it to be. Because, again, this team, man, like, the only concern you could have about them is that they will start off slow, reasonably, because you have a good freshman talent, good crop of freshmen that are still trying to learn college basketball. You have all the transfer from Ricky Council IV, Trayvon Brazile, the Mitchell twins, Jalen Graham, so on and so forth. Like, it takes time for these teams to gel. And then on top of that, you only really have two returners in Devo Davis and Kamani Johnson, who actually gave them good minutes in that overtime win against San Diego State in the last night that they were in Maui. And they just have it. And I look at the SEC, like, it's not too many threats right now in the SEC. Auburn almost lost to Northwestern, which should not be the case. Florida is good, but they lost to an Xavier team that they probably should have beat, And then you look at Kentucky, they don't really have an identity right now. The talent is there. You never question that. But Arkansas, as most of us projected and predicted, they can win the SEC. And they're a quality Elite Eight caliber team right now as I am talking to you guys on November 25th. We're not even close to March. March is approaching, but of course it's still months away. And so when Arkansas finally starts to piece it together, when they get Nick Smith back into the rotation and they start to really take off, it's going to be scary, man. That's why I love everything that they're doing, man, because one thing about Eric Musselman, his teams are going to play defense at a high level. And Muss himself, even when you're just watching him coach, he's on that sideline pacing up and down the bench. Like, he's always active. He's always engaged. He's always talking to his players. He's always keeping the crowd engaged. Like, he knows how to coach. And I never, ever question Eric Musselman, especially come March time, because that's when he's at his most dangerous. You go back a couple years, they beat Texas Tech. A lot of people did not have them winning that game. They gave Baylor a fight again in 2021. Like, they beat Gonzaga. They had no business whatsoever beating that Gonzaga team led by Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren last year, because their only real offense was do or die with J.D. Note and Jalen Williams make plays for other guys like Audice Toney and like a couple other guys. So, like, he just knows, he knows how to throw talent together, maximize it, and make it work. And that goes even back to his Nevada days when he had Jordan Caroline and the Martin twins. Like, Musselman is a great coach. He's mastered the recruiting. They're bringing in Layden Blocker and Bayfall next year, which is going to be big-time additions. He knows how to just raise the vibes of a program because before this, Arkansas was just a middle-of-the-pack SEC program. Like, no offense to Mike Anderson, who I like and I'm still hoping for, rooting for at St. John's, but they just didn't have the energy that they do now. Now all of a sudden you're seeing a whole bunch of Arkansas fans come out of the woodwork and just claiming their team, and for all the right reasons. Like, Eric Musselman has done a great job, man. So with both these teams, Creighton and Arkansas, watch out for them. It was a reason that I talked about them so much in the summer, and I was so high on them, and they're living up to it, and they're exceeding all of my expectations. And I can't wait to see how the rest of the season plays out, because both those teams, to me, are going to finish as top 2 teams in their respective conferences between the Big East and the SEC, man. But again, that is that. As always, I appreciate you guys for making it this far, man. Please like, rate, comment, subscribe, review, and all those good things. I'm on YouTube. My channel is Kevin Lucas. I'll put the link in the comments of these episodes. I appreciate you guys for supporting, man. This has been another episode of the Kevo Bands Hoops podcast. Y'all be safe. Y'all be easy. Y'all end the rest of this year of 2022 on a high note and keep striving. And as always, peace and love. Gone.